What's going on, guys? It is the Coaster Battleman here, bringing you what coasters can Cedar Point add next. The most likely option for me, in my opinion, is a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster. I feel like Cedar Point, if they wanted to break a record, a Gerstlauer Infinity would be the right option because, one, Cedar Fair has worked with Gerstlauer before, and two, they could break the record for the first coaster to go upside down 10 plus times in the USA, or even 15 for the world, and beat out the Smiler at Alton Towers. I feel like this is more likely to happen in the short term in 2022 through 2023, and not as much later in the decade, and most likely will be in the Frontier Town section of the park. The second most likely option would be a GCI wooden coaster, and if it was Dueling, it could replace Gemini, but that would be something more for the long-term future. It could be located in the Frontier Town section of the park, as this section of the park has been really expanding a ton lately with Steel Vengeance in 2018, and just this entire back of the park in general, but I think this coaster would be likely if it was just an individual GCI around the 2022 through 2023 range. But the new addition, if Dueling, could occur later in the decade between 2026 and 2029 and replace Gemini. The next most likely option would be a B&M flying coaster. It could replace an older coaster potentially like a Cedar Creek Mine Ride or Gemini, and it can break records for being the tallest, fastest, longest flying coaster and maybe being the first flying coaster over 200 feet. I could see this happening in 2022, as it seems like the ultimate year that Cedar Point will add something new that's going to be really big and groundbreaking. Or I could see it happening later in the decade, in the late 2020s, from 2026 through 2028. Getting into the more unlikely options, first is a 500 plus foot tall RMC T-Rex. Out of most amusement parks in general, Cedar Point would be most likely to build a 500 plus foot tall coaster. But because of the coronavirus, I don't think as large of a coaster will be built pretty soon for Cedar Point. And also, there's not that many good areas to put a T-Rex of this size currently at the park, as Cedar Point is very landlocked. If a 500 plus foot tall RMC T-Rex were to come to fruition, it would most likely happen later in the decade, in the late 2020s, or beyond 2030. And the least likely option, I know you could argue with me and say this is more likely than the 500 plus foot tall RMC, but it's a modern family coaster, and it could replace something like a Corkscrew or Iron Dragon, or just any of these other aerodynamics coasters. And it could be something from Mock Rides, a spinning coaster, a launch coaster, or combine the two like with Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. But if I see this happening soon, I would say sometime 2026 or later will be when this modern family coaster gets built at Cedar Point. Anyways, guys, that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more videos.